have a sampler that comes with SSK, and it's got a bunch of different examples. And I went through a lot of trouble to organize this. And for example, if you were to run this app, download it and run it, you could click on the little question mark in the upper right-hand corner, and you could read the help. And in the help, if you were to scroll down, it would say extracting sample code, or SSK sampler code. And there's a video, and like I said, I went through a lot of trouble to organize this so that people could go in here and get the code out. And yet, people are still struggling to do this. For whatever reason, somebody told me that my video was too confusing. That's quite possible. Regardless, I have come to the realization that this is pretty but not easy for people to get into and take code out of and use. So, I have started a new project that is not quite ready for release yet, but the premise is that it works a lot like the sampler. And what I'm going to try to do is answer what I consider to be interesting questions out of the forums and post answers to them in a unified sampler or project. And let me find it. So currently I'm calling it Weekly Answers to Interesting Forum Questions. And let this thing spin through. And then you run this, it'll be an app that you can download, and you'll run it, and there'll be a button to run the example, or a button to, if you click on it, it will open up the forum link. It'll take you to the forums where the question was asked. It's very, very basic application. And the way this sampler will work is there will literally be folders where you can just copy the answer right out of this sampler, and then it will run. So the big problem with SSK, the sampler, was that running the samples was dependent upon the harness, the menus, and all the stuff that were surrounding it. And it was too hard for people to get that code out. And so I'll explain. The reason I'm mentioning this now is not so much for a personal announcement, especially since this isn't quite ready, but I am now going to be doing the same thing for the Hangout. So I talk a lot. Obviously, I talk a lot. And last week I realized two things. One, we don't cover topics quickly enough sometimes, so I overlap into another week, and that may be a little bit hard for people to consume. So I'm going to try to make things a little more bite-sized. And while I'm doing that, I thought, why not use this new sampler technique that I'm using for my own stuff? And where is it? Sorry. And so what we'll do is everything that I've already released will remain out on the GitHub, but I'm going to start building up a unified sampler that will just have little bits of code in it that you can run out of the sampler simply by downloading it and clicking on the link or clicking on the button, and they'll run just like this. However, let's say that you wanted to extract this sample that I'm running right now. You simply run the sampler and say, oh, shelf 148, he talked about simple car. Look at the parentheses, it says simple underbar car, that's the name of the folder. Then you open the sampler that you've downloaded, and you look in the folder examples, and you'll see that there is a folder called simple car. So you simply grab it, just copy the whole thing, paste it someplace else where you want to work on it, and now, instead of having it in this harness, you can simply go open the project, locate it, and all the files that you need, main Lua, all the support files, all the images, everything else will be in there, and it runs exactly the same as it did in the harness. But now it's completely separated from the harness code, so you should have no confusion about what do I need, what does it rely upon, is there some kind of dependency between the sampler code and the example. Everything is self-contained now.
That's super cool.
Yeah, so my one question, and this is this is a spoon-fed question, is would you ever consider breaking those? Go ahead and just breaking those samples outside of the sampler, and so it's, so instead of people having to go down and dig into the sampler
I
project.
had considered doing one more thing. Let me go back to the sampler. Actually, let me go back to So as my weekly sampler has a button here to run and a button to look at the question, I have considered doing sort of a similar layout. Let me go back to, where is it? Hangout sample. I got so many things. So instead of having just a button to run, I'm thinking about putting another button right next to it that says Get It,
Yeah.
which you could just click and it would give you a direct link to the GitHub where there'd just be like a zip file you could download.
Yeah, because unfortunately, some of these things depend on people's understanding of a convention. And if they don't understand the simple underbar car is the folder name, then now they're lost, right? So they're like one click away from where they should be, but they don't know that.
Because I'm going to do something similar for my own, the thing that I showed you just earlier where I was doing the weekly.
Mm-hmm.
There's more, that's not quite done yet, but there's going to be some slight changes to the interface to make it easy for people to get that code. So I'll probably do the same thing here. But the good thing is that not only will this be smaller and easier for people to consume, but it's all going to be in one place. I mean, unless we do like a game development sequence like we did previously, pretty much everything I talk about now will just go into this sampler kit, and you'll be able to find it.
Well, that's nice.
Ed, I have 2 questions / maybe suggestions. One, how are you going to handle updates with this? Is it going to be dynamically updated, like pulling from a JSON file hosted somewhere?
I'm just going to tell people they need to download. So this is going to be the whole sampler. Okay, let me back up. When I do talks on the Hangout, I always give Charles a link to a zip file.
Mm-hmm.
And the zip file contains the whole thing, whatever I talked about that day. And so from now on, I'm just going to give Charles the same link, and it's going to be to a zip file that people can download. And if they want to get the latest one, they just got to go download it again.
So people will have to build this app themselves. You're not planning on like releasing it on the App Store then?
Oh no, I'm not going to release this on the App Store.
Okay.
And it's not really something they'd want to build and put on their device. And the reason is because once I run, there's no way to like go back to the menu. The whole purpose of this sampler is really just to give people a very, very simple way to look at an example in the simulator.
Gotcha.
Say, hey, I want to go look at rope joints. Oh, that's the kind of behavior I was looking for. Okay, let's see. Rope joint. Oh, it's in this folder. Or, click the button and download the code. Done.
Oh, see, because this is, and you might be totally right, but if I can bend your ear, I almost think this might be worth releasing on the App Store, updating it dynamically so they don't need to download a new one, and then if you'd have to build a wrapper, you'd have to build a way to get back to the menu. And then I was thinking from it, because you can play with it on your device, which I think is just a easier way to sort of get how something looks and feels. And then maybe instead of saying, here's the folder, maybe including a way that it would email you a download link, so that you're playing with it on your device, but then you can download, direct download, like email myself the download link for this thing. I don't know, just an idea.
Yeah, no, it's a good idea with the exception of one little detail. iOS, Apple, they don't allow you to do that, pretty much. You've got to be tricky about it.
Yeah.
They don't allow the word sample, demo, or anything like that.
Oh,
they don't allow the concept of samples. So I could do it for Android. So that's why I'm going to go with in the simulator first, and perhaps I can do an Android release that people who have Android devices can do, but I'm almost 100% not going to do the Apple Store.
I love it as a concept, though. I think it's really cool.
I do like the idea of centralizing everything, especially for Ed's management, maintenance, time.
Right. Well, this is just more efficient, and then I can find, like, if I make a mistake someplace and it's propagated through a bunch of things, I can just correct it in one place and be done. Another thing I just want to point out, you'll notice here, is this one that says fake sample. For the most part, these are going to be what I call pure examples. That is, they don't require SSK, but not always. As I've stated before, the reason I made SSK was to make my life easier. So sometimes I'm going to be giving examples that rely upon, say, the SSK math library or something. And in those cases, the example will look just like the others. The button will look the same, except it will have a little label on it that says SSK Corona, which means that it requires SSK to run that example. So that's sort of like a little level up for people who are new And they may say, okay, that's cool, but I'm not sure I'm ready to delve into SSK quite yet.